Tonight, we're going to talk about how to handle emotional crisis. This is Tom Kieran with the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up, become the best version of yourself. Guys, welcome back. I want to talk more about Dr. Hawkins' book, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. And he talks about how to handle crisis. This could be a big event in your life. It could be a job loss. It could be the loss of a loved one. Something that really rocks you and shakes you. And here's what he talks about. Because there's such an overwhelm of emotion when this happens, what he recommends is what we talked about before, what the mind usually goes to when it handles negative emotion is suppression, repression, expression, and escape. When those are not consciously used, those are not good for us, right? It's not good to repress or suppress. Really, it's never good, but or vent or vent or express it in a negative way, or try to escape mechanisms, right? We want to release it. We want to surrender it. However, in a crisis, when these suppressed and repressed emotions come up, we can use these three things that the mind normally does unconsciously with conscious intent, and this is when it can help us, right? We wouldn't. If we didn't have the repressed or suppressed emotions and an emotional crisis, we might be okay if we didn't have this. But since we do have this, we're going to use it. He suggests that you go through these three steps. Essentially, try to reduce the overwhelm. So whatever you can do to kind of repress it, express, maybe tell friends, maybe vent a little bit to somebody, and then do things that you normally like to do, activities with friends. It could be going out. It could, in this case, a little escape would help. Why? What's the purpose? To reduce the overwhelm of emotions. Because in a crisis, you're just overwhelmed. So the idea is, unless you reduce that pressure immediately, you're going to continue to be overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to get out of it very easily. The second thing he says, after you do that, after you use these three things, and then fourth, let go of fourthly, let go of smaller aspects of the negative situation. If it's a job loss, you can start imagining that, oh, well, I didn't really, it was probably, again, looking for the positive aspects of it, but letting go of your attachment to smaller aspects of the loss, whatever that crisis is, letting go of smaller parts of it. The idea here is although those parts that you're letting go may seem trivial, you started getting into the letting go mode. You're going to start moving up the emotional scale, as we talked about in a previous video. You let go of the attachment to certain smaller things of the crisis. And if it's a job loss, it could be things that specific, your office, the social atmosphere. Start letting those little things go. Once you do that, you start moving up the emotional scale. This is what Hawkins is talking about. When you move up the emotional scales, you can get to courage. Courage, as we talked about in the previous video, is the start of the positive emotions on the emotional scale, on the scale of consciousness. Below that is anger, frustration, despair, shame and guilt and all that other stuff. Now, you may feel some of these things after you get over the overwhelmment, so we'll talk about that in a second. But when you surrender, the idea is when you surrender on one emotion, you surrender to all the emotions at the same time. So when you release that, when you release these smaller things, some of these other emotions will be released as well. Now, he does say when you finally get through it, there's still going to be some emotions there, right? It could be other emotions. Now you could start feeling angry, or worried about getting another job. These things you can now work through once you get through the overwhelm. So he recommends using suppression, repression in this case consciously. Expression, the idea of venting and venting and getting, maybe even getting a little angry, just to release the pressure of those, escaping, right? Doing your activities. It could be going out, a night out with friends, whatever it is, to reduce the overwhelm. Once you reduce the overwhelm, he says, let go of those smaller aspects of the negative situation. Find things that you can let go of more easily. This gets you in the letting go mode. of negative emotions. This moves you up the scale. Once you get to courage, you start gaining confidence. And now that you have more confidence that you can deal with the crisis, that you've made it through the brunt of the crisis, you start getting more confidence that you can deal with situations like that. You can start looking at some of the negative emotion you still haven't let go and start letting that go. Could be regret, could be, other things that are still stirring that you quite haven't got with. So it's the idea of surrendering, but letting go. But in this case of an emotional crisis, you've got to have an immediate release of the overwhelming emotions, and then little by little let the other stuff go. And you move up that emotional scale, as we talked about. I think we talked about in the last, let me just flip that chart. This is the emotional scale. And you get to courage, which is the start of the positive emotions and a positive vibration. This is when you'll start attracting more positive situations as well. So this is Hawkins' book, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender. And he talks about, sometimes you hit an event in life that really shakes you, the dark night of the soul. He mentions like near-death experiences where people have that, and then they have a heightened awareness, a heightened appreciation of that God consciousness. Serious life crisis can do that, right? Can shake you up so much that you change, you move up the scale of emotions or the scale of consciousness, and you end up here because that event shook you so much that you're more intuitive, you're more loving, and then you move up the emotional scale. Hopefully, you can do it. You don't need a crisis, guys, to move up that scale, but this is the idea. So this is how to handle an emotional crisis when it happens, right? These are the steps, right? You got to release the overwhelming, and then little by little let go smaller aspects of it, move up the emotional scale, and then you can deal with any residual emotion. Some might be around, but when it comes up, it won't be quite as big. After dealing with something like this, you gain that confidence and you move up the scale automatically. Yeah? So this is Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David Hawkins. I'll leave a link down there. Really loving it. It's a great book, and we'll talk more about him in the future. Guys, this is Tom Kieran with the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher Consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe. We love subscribers. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And follow us and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. Okay? Until next time, this is Tom. See you soon.